All right, one of my favorite reporters, Glenn Beck. Here we go about Obama being in charge of this process of going after Trump.
And I urge you to draw your own conclusions. Do not take my conclusions as gospel. You must make the truth your own or it's meaningless, because we're at war. And this country is not going to survive unless we come together and actually recognize the truth. And I'm going to show you the truth, and it's not something I say with glee, although it is something that I did anticipate in the past. This tonight, I'm going to show you and make the case that the Central Intelligence Agency, the Department of Justice, the FBI, all in a conspiracy led by President Barack Obama, tried to disrupt and politically assassinate a duly elected president of the United States, Donald Trump. It was not just because they didn't like him. It is because they wanted their own deep state government, which they had worked very hard to put in.
What would you do?
All right, back with Obama and past the ads. And they started with Flynn, but that wasn't the only one. They did get their deep state players in place, but they have enough operatives to cause a lot of serious trouble.
Flynn, because he knew where all the bodies were buried. And it did involve members of intelligence, law enforcement, National Security Council, Justice Department, multiple other presidential cabinet members. And a lot of it is right here, but there's many more documents that are going to come out. And when they finally do come out, I think we're going to see some perp walks. And if we don't see high-level people on camera during a perp walk, I don't believe that the United States survives. When all of this comes out, you will see it's going to...
It will never all come out. Living in a delusional world, if you think it is. Never going to happen. There's layers and layers and layers and layers of this. They'll never get the top people.
To make Watergate look like a little children's tea party or a minor case of jaywalking. I've been saying this since Obama got into office, and the reason why I said it is because the press gave him a pass. They never called him on anything. He could do no wrong. He was scandal-free, and when you're in that atmosphere, power intoxicates, and you think you can get away with anything. But I knew it would come undone. This is the first time we could find it today. We started looking. This is what I said in 2011. Listen.
Once you open this can of worms, you're going to find all kinds of stuff. I told you at probably 8 months into this administration, when the investigations start, if they ever do start, you will find that this administration is more corrupt. It's going to make Watergate look like a picnic.
Okay, well, what I'm about to reveal to you is going to make Watergate look like a picnic, and it is only one. The reason why I put timeline number 1 up here, General Flynn, is because you will see this even ties into the timeline we did with Ukraine and Joe Biden. There are many timelines that we're going to be doing. This is just the first episode on this. Now, you've probably heard what I'm talking about as deep state. But I see it like a infestation of termites. And the reason why I say that is because I just had termites in my barn, and I ripped up all my floors. And as soon as I did that, they were like, what are you doing? You shouldn't have done that, because now they go deep into the ground. Now you can't kill them because they're not on the surface. They're down in the ground. And that's exactly what this deep state has done. As you watch the show tonight, I want you to keep this one question in mind. What did President Obama know? Now, this is really key, because his faithful lackeys, as they're all about to be exposed, will try to cover for their old boss and cover their own butts. The media is going to latch on to this, what I show you tonight, and say it's conspiracy theory. No, this is a conspiracy. It is. But we now have the facts to back it up. Everybody's going to say it was just rogue agents. It's not. We know better. What did Obama know? Well, I'm about to show you. I want to take you first back to 1975. It's an interview with Senator Frank Church on NBC's Meet the Press. Watch.
There would be no place to hide if this government ever became a tyranny, if a dictator ever took charge in this country. the technological capacity that the intelligence community has given the government could enable it to impose total tyranny. And there would be no way to fight back, because the most careful effort to combine together in resistance to the government, no matter how privately it was done, is within the reach of the government to know. Such is the capability of this technology. Now, why is this investigation important? I'll tell you why. Because I don't want to see this country ever go across the bridge. I know the capacity that is there to make tyranny total in America. And we must see to it that this agency and all agencies that possess this technology operate within the law and under proper supervision so that we never cross over that abyss.
That's a farce. No matter what this guy says, it's a farce. They've been over that bridge so many times it makes you sick.
Yes.
I think we are across that abyss now. I don't know if we can get it back, but if the American people don't stand up, we will not. And that was with 1975 technology. Imagine the power our government has now. All right. It's happened under the Obama administration, but it's been going for a long time. The Church Committee was supposed to protect us from all of the stuff I'm going to show you tonight. They were termites within the intelligence community and law enforcement. And we were told they were all gone, but they went deep down. The FBI, during FDR's administration, had gotten so bad that J. Edgar Hoover was providing the president with information on his critics. Hoover kept the case files on famous American citizens' sex lives, including JFK, Martin Luther King Jr., Rock Hudson. Hoover's notorious do not fire.
Hello. Boy, I know.
Just in case the event ever came up where you had to bend someone to his will. Well, after he died, the Church Committee, we were told, ended all of this, but they went underground. If we can thank Obama for anything, perhaps it's him being so arrogant, so brazen in his actions, and the press being so in bed with them that they have revealed this infection once again, and it is bad. So what did Obama know? Well, let me show you. I'm going to lay this case out for you tonight. I'm going to populate this later. But because everything is coming out in dribs and drabs, and the media always covers little things and they don't tell you the whole story, I'm going to put it in one storyline. And what I'm going to show you is the setup, the poison, the twist, the plot thickens, the alibi, the setup, the trap. Okay? So let's go back to February 2018. Senators Grassley and Graham ran across an interesting email. Here is the story here that Susan Wright sent to herself. And it was weird. She wrote this as she was walking out of the Oval Office in the White House for the very last time. It was Inauguration Day. And the email just memorialized a meeting that took place in the Oval Office on January 5th, 2017. Now, I want to show you the people that were involved according to this email. She says that in that meeting was President Obama, James Comey, and Sally Yates, okay, along with the president. Now, this is what she typed out as she closed up shop and walked out the White House. And she said, quote, President Obama began the conversation by stressing his continued commitment to ensuring that every aspect of this issue is handled by the intelligence and law enforcement communities by the book. The president stressed that he is not asking about, initiating, or instructing anything from a law enforcement perspective. That line is the killer. He reiterated that our law enforcement team needs
Pure BS.
needs to proceed as it normally would by the book.
That's BS.
End quote. Now, the reason why this is so important is because it's almost as if everything that happened on this date, January 5th, the plot thickens, didn't have anything to do at all with keeping everything by the book. It makes this document a verifiable lie. Now, Adam Schiff has been successful for several years in hiding additional documentation from getting out, but there's a new sheriff in town. It's Acting Director of National Intelligence, Richard Grinnell. He has begun to open up the floodgates, and it all started...
Thank God he's getting some stuff on us.
last week. And all of this stuff, you can't disagree with it. It's all the stuff that was testified to under Adam Schiff. It's all of the documents that we have. We've only had one side of the story. They couldn't make the case. Oh, you'll understand it here in a minute. Now, we know because of these documents, there were a few other people who were in attendance. Here is this. This is an addendum, this header of the classified email that Susan Rice herself wrote to herself on Inauguration Day. And she identifies a few more people. She says that also in that meeting, along with Barack Obama and Sally Yates and Comey, is good old Uncle Joe Biden. Oh, but we're not done. We also now have a redacted version of the Sally Yates classified testimony that she gave to Congress from the SCIF, and she says John Brennan was there, as was James Clapper. This is the gang you need to remember. She also mentions others from the National Security Council as well, but didn't name any specific names. I would speculate, and this is just my speculation, and you'll understand why, Samantha Power and Ben Rhodes, but I'll get back to that in a second. So if you're keeping track now, the players we've identified so far, Comey, Brennan, Clapper, Rice, Yates, Biden, and the ringleader himself, Barack Obama. I'm going to circle back to what Yates testified about later on, but first, I want to start with the director.
Now, why aren't these people being brought up on criminal charges and treason? Bigger question.
John Brennan. We know that the FBI started the Russia investigation in 2016, the spring of 2016, and it was all due to some ridiculous thing someone heard George Papadopoulos say in a bar, supposedly. We now know from reports in The Guardian that the UK's version of the NSA, the GCHQ, was actively involved in monitoring low-level Trump campaign people. So foreign government, have you heard any of this? Listen to this from The Guardian. The precise nature of these exchanges has not been made public, but according to sources in the U.S. and the U.K., they formed a suspicious pattern. They continued through the first half of 2016. The intelligence was handed to the U.S. as part of a routine sharing of information. The article goes on to expose that the head of the GCHQ, Robert Hannigan, flew to the United States and went straight to, guess who? John Brennan. Now, John Brennan is not his U.S. counterpart. Why would John Brennan have a meeting with this guy? Because his counterpart would have been the head of the NSA. Is there an ideological bond with Brennan? Was it to get rid of Trump? We don't know yet. But it's the only thing that makes sense given this abrupt break in protocol. And one other thing, because that's pretty flimsy there. But let me just give you something else you've never heard. Robert Hannigan has resigned. He left his post on January 23rd, 2017, 3 days after Donald Trump's inauguration. Big deal. It is, because this news never made it across the ocean. The media in the UK were all over it, but our media didn't understand or didn't want to understand what was going on. The media over there was left to speculate on the reason for the abrupt resignation and the weird timing, and they said, quote, his sudden resignation, he informed staff just hours before making this decision public, prompted speculation that it might be related to British concerns over shared intelligence with the U.S. in the wake of Donald Trump becoming president. So John Brennan was getting unofficial intelligence obtained outside official protocols. The guy who was giving it to him resigns as soon as Trump becomes president. And he's giving that information to like-minded people like Comey. From Brennan's May 23, 2017 congressional testimony, quote, I made sure that anything that was involving U.S. persons, including anything involving the individuals involved in the Trump campaign, was shared with the FBI. The information, again, shared unofficially outside of protocols, started this entire thing. From the Brennan testimony, quote, I was aware of intelligence and information about contacts between Russian officials and U.S. persons that raised concerns in my mind about whether or not these individuals were cooperating with the Russians, either witting or unwitting fashion. And it served as the basis for the FBI investigation. So that information given by supposed allies and information that sounds like it was directly ripped from the Steele dossier started this entire thing. And John Brennan is the head of the table. He's taking the Steele dossier from a British spy paid for by Clinton and the Democrats, and Robert Hannigan, another spook from England, giving it to John Brennan, strangely. Well, this information from the Steele dossier went directly to Harry Reid. It prompted Reid to write an official letter to the FBI. It referenced the allegations of Carter Page, met with sanctioned Russian officials in Moscow. Remember, Carter Page is the guy who was set up by the FBI. They lied about him to get the FISA warrant. Remember that story? The only place any of this stuff can be found is in the Steele dossier. So Brennan was using opposition research peddled by our friends in the UK, not to prove any guilt, but to give the appearance of guilt. This is really important. Now, in February of this year, the New York Times reported the Justice Department's investigator, John Durham, is directly looking into this. Oh, hopefully heads will roll. In Brennan's own words, his information didn't just start the Russia investigation, it, quote, served as the basis. So, got to remember that line, and remember the question, what did Obama know? Well, Obama knew a lot. Text messages between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page make that really pretty obvious. Those texts were officially revealed publicly in the Inspector General report last year, but we didn't have all the context. Page said to Strzok, I can tell you why you're having that meeting. It's not what you think. Strzok to Page, talking points for the director. Page to Strzok, yes, because POTUS wants to know everything we're doing. Now, you can spin that any way you want, but the president has said that he wasn't involved in anything on a base level. He just wanted to know the big overview. Now, these texts were sent on September 2nd, 2016, 2 months after the Russia investigation and the Trump campaign began. So what did Obama know about what the FBI was doing with John Brennan's information? Well, according to Lisa Page, everything. Knowing this makes perfect sense why Brennan was at that January 5th meeting in the Oval Office with all of those people. But we're just getting started, because you don't know who else was at that meeting and why it's important and what the documents that you'll find at glennbeck.com prove. All right, I want to talk to you a little bit about your safe haven, your home, your most valuable asset. You know, when people say you could have your home robbed, okay, somebody come over, your help every single month, your subscription, that we can afford to do these things. We have assembled some of the best voices. Mark Levin had a theory of a conspiracy back in 2017. Now we know it's no longer a theory, it's proven. He's not a conspiracy theorist. He was right. Just like Einstein's theory of relativity. We don't know if that's right yet. It's a theory. This is not a theory. And we will stay on this story, and we're going to connect all of the dots, but we need your support at blazetv.com. This week ends our special biggest discount ever, $30 off your year's subscription. Please subscribe now. Okay, let me take you to December 29th, 2016. General Flynn spoke to the Russian ambassador. Oh, my gosh. Before I go into that specifically, how do we know this ever happened? Well, we know because it was mysteriously leaked by someone as well, mysteriously 3 years ago back in 2017. And that mystery was solved as multiple Obama administration officials began to get outed unmasking people's names in communications intercepts. Now, this is really important for you to understand. It's a big deal. Unmasking refers to the process of identifying the names of United States citizens that have been caught up in the surveillance of foreign counterintelligence operations. And there is a system in place to keep our names private in these cases. But every once in a while, a request is made to unmask a name so investigators can get more context on what's going on. The system protects privacy. It protects us from the government if they ever wanted to publicly smear or embarrass us. And that's exactly what the Obama administration was doing. Unmasking Trump campaign names, doing legitimate work with the specific intent of leaking information to orchestrate a political coup. UN Ambassador Samantha Power was one of the worst unmasking hundreds of U.S. names during the final year Obama was in the White House. Susan Wright was doing exactly the same thing. She admitted to unmasking the names of Steve Bannon, Jared Kushner, and Mike Flynn when they met with the UAE officials back in 2016. Now, she leaked that the allegation that hit the press was that Trump's team was trying to set up some super secret back channel with Russia. But according to the senior Middle East official, this meeting was, quote, about ascertaining the Trump team's view of the region and sharing the UAE's view of the region and what the U.S. role should be. No one was coming in to sell anything or arrange anything, end quote. But did you hear that part of the story? The Obama administration officials like Sam Power and Susan Rice were unmasking the names of members of the Trump team from typical meetings that had nothing nefarious at all and giving the appearance of guilt through spinning up media leaks. And the leaker in chief has been identified by lawmakers as none other than Ben Rhodes. Quote, Rhodes has been identified by leading lawmakers as a primary suspect in the leak campaign, which includes disclosing the names of Trump officials and associates in the press in order to discredit the current administration. Unmasking is not a problem. Leaking that information to the press.
Where are you experiencing pain right now?
So what did Obama know? Well, his entire cabinet was involved in this, for crying out loud. And let's not allow them to pretend that they actually believed or saw evidence that Trump was colluding with Russia. We now have, and they're available at glennbeck.com, the original transcripts, the official transcripts from the testimonies to Congress that were released last week. You want to know what John Brennan and James Clapper really knew? Let me show you. Here's James Clapper's now declassified statement to Congress in secret meetings. I never saw any direct empirical evidence that the Trump campaign or someone in it was plotting, conspiring with the Russians to meddle with the election, end quote. Okay, so Brennan's information that actually started the FBI investigation and all of this is bullcrap? How about the two Obama cabinet serial unmaskers? I mean, they must have been privy to some pretty damning information to start all those unmaskings, right? Let's see, what did Samantha Power reveal to Congress in closed-door testimony? What intelligence did she see? Quote, I am not in possession of anything. I am not in possession, and I didn't read or absorb information that came out of the intelligence community, end quote. So she didn't see any evidence either. So why all the unmaskings? Well, maybe her partner in crime, Susan Rice, saw something. You know, if anyone in the Obama cabinet saw something dirty, it would be her, right? Let's find her quote. Quote, to the best of my recollection, there wasn't anything smoking, but there were some things that gave me pause. I don't recall intelligence that I would consider evidence to that effect of what I saw, conspiracy prior to my departure. I don't recall any intelligence or evidence to that effect. My gosh, these guys could have been testifying for the president. So how about Ben Rhodes? Maybe, just maybe, he was privy to additional information that Power and Rice weren't. Maybe that's why he supposedly leaked all the information to the press that he was getting from his two colleagues. If so, I'm sure he told Congress, quote, I wouldn't have received any information on any criminal or counterintelligence investigations into what the Trump campaign was doing, so I would not have seen that information. I saw indications of potential coordination, but I did not see, the specific evidence of the actions of the Trump campaign. So none of them had anything. That's why Schiff couldn't prove anything. They took typical campaign transition team actions. If they would have done that, it would have been fine, but they didn't. They took the actions and gave it the appearance of guilt, and they weaponized the vast resources of the intelligence and law enforcement resources of the United States government to do it. They don't care who they step on and what lives they destroyed in the process. The case against General Flynn explains everything. You want to know what Obama knew? The U.S. government versus Mike Flynn holds the key. All right, please don't tell, my wife doesn't watch my show usually, so I'm safe. Don't tell my wife I said this to you, but I got to start listening to my wife more. I swear to you, this is a client that I actually asked to be on our show, the Built Bar. She's been telling me about this protein bar. It's healthy. It's only 150 calories. It tastes just like a chocolate bar. And I'm like, it's a protein bar. They taste like sawdust and my doormat. No. So she's been eating them forever. And she's like, I'm telling you. Well, finally, she was gone, and there was no ice cream in the house. And I took one of her bars, and I came home. She came home, and I'm like, that's pretty, that's not great or anything. It's fantastic. I asked for them because I never would eat a protein bar or something that would help you stay on a diet. I have a sweet tooth. I need something sweet at the end of the day. This is it. Please, Built Bar, just try it. Let me pretend I'm your wife. You gotta try it. It's really good. No. Just do it. Tastes great with nutrition, high protein, low calories, high fiber, low carbs. They use 100% real chocolate. It's 100% really, really good. So I want you to go right to this website, BuiltBar.com. Use the promo code Beck. I think you're going to save $10 off your first order. It's a huge deal. BuiltBar.com. All right, I want to take you right back to our timeline, the setup, the poison, the twist, the plot thickens, the alibi. Okay, in spring of 2016, we know General Flynn was targeted by Comey and the FBI all the way from the beginning. This is months before the call with the Russian ambassador. Let me say that again. A 30-year combat veteran, an Army general, the former director of the DIA, was now the subject of a counterintelligence investigation simply for being a member of Donald Trump's campaign. And if they can do this to this man, they will do it to all of us. The FBI's justification for opening the investigation was just released last week. These are the documents. I want you to see them. These were the reasons. He was a Trump advisor. He has ties to various state-affiliated entities for the Russian Federation, and he traveled to Russia in 2015. Now, we know that the only relevant point to them was the first one. He was a member of the Trump team. Points 2 and 3 were just there, like the leaks from Power, Rice, and Rhodes, to give an appearance of guilt. Yes, Flynn traveled to Russia, and yes, he had ties to various state-affiliated entities in Russia. But what is the FBI referring to? This one. Mike Flynn attended a Russia Today gala in Moscow where he was paid a good amount of money to give a speech there. I mean, look at that picture. Look at the optics. It's horrible. It gave them everything they needed to begin destroying Flynn's reputation. Flynn received over $40,000 for his speech in Moscow in 2015. But is that unusual? Maybe. Former U.S. government officials would never accept $45,000 to speak at a Kremlin-affiliated function. I mean, look at Bill Clinton. It took the Russians $500,000 to bribe him to come over to speak in Russia for a Russia investment bank with links to the Kremlin. And that was the same year Flynn was giving his speech in Moscow. Sounds to me like Flynn got hosed. But there's also one thing we can absolutely guarantee. The FBI never opened a counterintelligence investigation into Bill Clinton for doing exactly the same thing that Flynn did. And I wonder why. Well, one was advising Donald Trump, and the other was married to Hillary Clinton. So it makes sense. General Flynn was the perfect scapegoat. They had all the optics covered via the 2015 Moscow event, and now all they needed was something that really drove it home. And that brings us to the mysterious leak of Flynn's call to the Russian ambassador. Now, I want you to look at this. This is recently declassified document from the FBI. Again, all of these documents are available at glennbeck.com. Check out the date, January 4th, 2017. This was sent just a few days after Flynn's call with the Russian ambassador. The document you're looking at is the closing communication regarding Mike Flynn. I urge you to really read this document. It is astounding. The FBI investigators found nothing wrong with General Flynn, nothing. They declared that he was, quote, no longer a viable candidate in the overall Russia investigation. You have to read it for yourself because it's way beyond that. In other words, the FBI cleared him of any wrongdoing. Now, this is where it should have ended, but instead, the twist on January 4th is the biggest surprise of all. The FBI clears him. The Justice Department says we're closing the case.
What would you do if all...
Now, I told you to take note of the date, January 4th, because one day later is the infamous office meeting with Obama's cabinet members, all of these guys. I want to go back to Sally Yates' testimony that was just released, which describes what went down during that meeting. Yates was actually surprised. She describes how the majority of the participants were dismissed, but Obama told Comey herself to stay behind. Obama began immediately talking about Mike Flynn. The meeting ended with talk of prosecuting Flynn under the Logan Act. Now, let's just remember, the Susan Rice alibi is, he said, we're not pressuring anybody to do anything. The FBI said the day before, we're closing the investigation. Here he's saying, you're not going to close. In fact, we have anything we can do. FBI says he's innocent. Agents involved said he shouldn't even be part of an overall investigation, but Barack Obama himself asked the heads of both the FBI and the DOJ to make it an issue again. If you need a smoking gun for what Obama knew and what he did wrong, it's right there. That's Obamagate. He knew everything, and he was now giving veiled orders on how to proceed next. The Logan Act is this obscure law from the 1700s that says no private citizen can speak for the U.S. government. And this is...
So I want to make it perfectly clear. Obama knew everything, and he's putting pressure on the FBI and the CIA, probably other agencies, to now go after Flynn.
The time before there were telephones, and some random schmo could walk in, into another country's capital and go, oh, I got my white wig and I'm representing the U.S. government. It's ridiculous in this day and age, but it's also unconstitutional. There's a reason no one has ever been prosecuted under the Logan Act. John Kerry has secretly been trying to run a shadow foreign policy with Rand for years, and he's not prosecuted under the Logan Act. That's how flimsy this is. Now, on January 23rd, to make it worse, January 23rd, here they're saying, no, don't dismiss this, get him. January 23rd, after the alibi, the setup. What do? The Washington Post reports that Flynn was all but exonerated, but the very next day, the FBI has their famous trap, their interrogation of General Flynn. His lawyers weren't there. He was safe. Everybody said he's safe. He didn't know that they had conspired to trap him. In recently handwritten notes from the FBI investigators and interrogators that day, you see right here, they reveal the goals: to get him to lie or to get him fired and to use the Logan Act. This FBI agent was asking, should we be doing this? The exact same strategy discussed in this meeting. That FBI interrogator on this day said, I don't know if we should be doing this. This was the line that ruined Mike Flynn's life. Tell me if you think it's justifiable. When you see the report of what he said, the report in the interviewing FBI agents filed regarding the conversation with Flynn, when asked if Flynn told the Russian ambassador not to escalate a situation after Obama imposed deep sanctions on them, his response was, not really, I don't really remember. I don't think it was, don't do anything. Well, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but we don't have a transcript of that. That's it. That's supposedly their Logan Act smoking gun. Hey, don't escalate things. We've got a new guy coming in. As is always the case with that ridiculous law, it's never enforced. So they nailed him with lying to the FBI, even though it has no merit. Lying to the FBI in itself is not a crime. If an FBI agent says, hey, buddy, you like all your wife's cooking? And you're like, oh, I love all of it. Yeah. They can't throw you in jail because you detest her meatloaf. It's not material to anything. As I just showed you, questioning Flynn was not material to the case. They cleared him, but they wanted to make his statement material by all means, charge him under the Logan Act. But they never even did that. All of this is why the DOJ dropped the case, and we'll get into the court system, what happened today, probably on tomorrow's radio program. But Obamagate is real, and he's getting nervous. That's why they're doubling down on this specific case. There was a leaked phone call, which you're going to recognize this one from our map on Ukraine. There was a leaked phone call that just appeared on Yahoo News, written by Michael Isikoff. The same Isikoff that helped them spread the bogus Steele dossier. I'll give them one thing. They got balls of steel, man, and they are consistent. In the call, Obama specifically mentions the Mike Flynn case and how that's why he's supporting Joe Biden. Quote, and the fact that there is no precedent for anyone confined for someone who's been charged with perjury getting off scot-free, that's the kind of stuff where you begin to get worried that the basic, not just institutional norms, but our basic understanding of the rule of law is at risk. Damn right, Obama. It sure the hell is. Thank God we have somebody actually revealing facts. I'd like to know why it took so long. Obama knows the FBI didn't have a case. He knows the information drudged up by foreign allies and then disseminated by CIA director was completely bogus. He knows that his own cabinet was engaged in a giant political assassination. What else does Obama know? He knew everything. Everything Senator Church feared back in 1975 came true under the Obama administration. The arrogant moves against Donald Trump finally exposed all the termites that are investing our system. So I guess we could say thank you to Obama for that. But I'm telling you, if you don't stand up and demand people go to jail, our republic will not survive. We must correct course.
You heard it. We don't stand up and demand that Obama is tried and his cabinet is tried, the people on this are tried. We won't endure. There you are, quote unquote. From Glenn Beck. Good day.